Hey everyone, my name's Will Grafton, and this is IPC 502 Innovation and Technology. And again, my project is cost and utilization reporting for high-risk patients. Over the last handful of weeks and everything, I've been discussing the topic. Just how this really even came to be is again, my background is information science, and I work kind of in more of an IT function role. So I was really looking for a number of different ideas, innovations, and tools that sort of lend itself to, my area of focus. And again, one thing that's been very key for our organization at LGH and then also, many others right now is really this idea of getting ahead of the change in the healthcare landscape as far as payment model. Again, previously we were in this model of, ordering on a test, and things like that. But now we're kind of more of a value-based model and really trying to work towards that. And, also too, healthcare organizations are also starting to assume more risk and, engage in contracts and everything that could be favorable, with the right understanding of the population and the right processes in place. So the focus of my project really was to identify a tool or solution that could quickly empower leadership to really understand some of those different trends and just to get a feel for what is going on with their population and really who are those sickest patients that perhaps could use some additional outreach and also to focus in on some of the patients that are rising risk to see if we can actually get to the point where we're predicting where people may land. And again, I know that's somewhat more of an end goal, but again, that's certainly somewhere where we want to be. And, I value everybody's feedback in the classroom. I certainly got a lot of great feedback over the weeks and everything. It seems like we have a lot of engagement. I'm sure for those folks that are clinical, it's probably a breath of fresh air to see somewhat of a different idea and different approach. So I certainly I value a lot of that feedback and everything. So again, in my eyes, I went towards a tool that I thought would be, most well equipped to handle this. So, and that's where I actually landed with the advisory board company's Crimson Population Risk Management tool. If you're an ACO that is looking for insight into your patients who are the highest utilizers of service, not understanding your patient population can make it very difficult for your organization to understand where resources should be focused to improve the health of the patients you serve. With the advisory board's Crimson Population Risk Management tool, you can quickly identify drivers of clinical and financial risk and provide insight into opportunities for improvement. Healthcare organizations, and especially, again, accountable care organizations, engaged in value-based contracts are the target for this tool. This innovative software package that actually uses your organization's data drives deep into healthcare costs associated with patient populations you serve. So, what are you waiting for? Let's contact the advisory board today for a demo of how the CPRM tool can bring valuable insight to your organization's leaders. And what I have here is just one of the high-level slides, from the tool. Again, this is something I pulled from, their website and everything as a demo because, I couldn't really share some of the proprietary information that I would have access to. Again, this is really a population dashboard. It really has overall kind of very high-level metrics. One of the biggest things that healthcare organizations look at that high level is a per member per month spend. So that really is just an average of across that continuum between medical, drug, lab. How much is an individual spending and kind of that overall and how that trend looks. Again, now on the next slide here, this is sort of that next dive into it where the tool then identifies some different savings opportunities. And of course, ED would be a big area. Readmissions are always an organizational goal at LGH to try to reduce and minimize again because they're very costly. And again, these are really all hyperlinks. So the beauty of this tool and one of the great selling points of this is that you can then continue to dig. So if you want to look into the saving opportunities for avoidable readmissions, you can certainly do so, click into it, and actually drive and dig a little bit further. And again, you can actually even drill down to that patient level and understand those patients that are costing you the most, if that's the route you choose to pursue. So how does this tool fit into the framework for innovation? I mean, from a quality standpoint, I mean, those most at risk are the ones that we're really trying to data mine and try to get that better handle on, just what we're looking at there. And, again, with any tool or almost any innovation, there's certainly a cost. I think it's a pretty substantial investment to certainly use this tool from both a cost and resource perspective. The advisory board typically licenses a product like this on a per life basis. So again, if you're looking at assessing, 100,000 lives at say $10 a piece, it's probably around $1 million, to use that tool. And again, I think the idea is, while there is that cost to it, it's some of the savings and everything that you continue to then drive and see as you dig into the tool and learn more insights and make changes. The safety of the patient will certainly be enhanced through screening and outreach efforts. I mean, again, the idea of the tool is to really identify those high utilizers, identify areas for improvement, and, areas where maybe the hospital isn't doing quite as well. It becomes a costly, procedure, a costly, just outcome. And again, that's where we want to back off at. Again, from an efficiency standpoint, certainly doesn't get too much easier this. Instead of investing a wealth of IT resources and time and effort, again, the advisory board actually works with your organization to ingest your information, both through your EMR and then also claims data from other payers and everything, so you get a good clinical and financial picture of those patients that you're attempting to, manage. And, from an outcome perspective, the idea is this to drive positive outcomes, that you could drill into some of the circumstances that may or may not be the best fit. And, again, I think this tool gives you the insight into those areas for improvement, how to make those outcomes better. From a resourcing standpoint, again, as I mentioned, there's a pretty substantial capital investment. It could be upwards of $1 million, depending on the lives that you want to cover. Again, there are some IT resources needed for implementation, again, because it's somewhat of a data sharing arrangement. Again, folks on your organization's side will have to facilitate some of that data transfer, but the advisory board does the bulk of the lifting, and it's a pretty smooth process. Probably the most important thing in my eyes, again, especially being in the IT world, is, well, yeah, it's a new tool, but what can it do, and what does that training and rollout look like? So I think that's one of the biggest areas to focus on, and again, just ensuring that the proper education and training is available for folks to actually use the tool and use it properly, because again, there's a wealth of insight and there's tremendous value there, but again, you have to know what you're doing with it, even though it is very easy to use. So I thank everybody for hearing my presentation. Bye.